I would like to start this video with something I stumbled upon quite curiously this morning, a quote by Ryan Holiday in the book Stillness is the Key. If everyone felt good, why would they keep trying so hard? First, it must be pointed out that this worry itself is hardly an ideal state of mind. No one does their best work driven by anxiety, and no one should be breeding insecurity in themselves so that they might keep making things. This is not industry, this is slavery. So I think it is extremely true, specifically once you are into a phase when you want to build your career, or when it is about money, or even just any kind of external achievement, no matter what it is, we tend to be propelled to always do more, provide more. And this overwhelming stress, especially if you watch the news non-stop, it may be so much buried down that you may not even recognize it, but a lot of the ideas and thoughts you have all day long may be only driven by anxiety, and you may not even know what is the opposite when you are not feeling anxious at all. Or more generally, anxiety happens every time you have a big project, or it can happen every time you have a really big project and you're kind of scared that it doesn't work out. So here are 5 techniques in this video to handle those extreme amounts of anxiety that may stumble upon your head once in a while and get rid of them once and for all. Number 1, timeline therapy, or timeline handle, for those who are aware of the NLP term around that. The first thing to understand about anxiety or stress is that it is always geared toward the future. Depression usually is with the past, with something that happened in the past, or thinking endlessly about the past, something that didn't go well, and anxiety is all about the future, what will happen tomorrow, today, and next day, or 1 year from now, or if I get broke again, things like that. So the first question for you here is how distant specifically, once we start getting more specific on the actual images, pictures you're making that are getting yourself worried, it is actually easier to handle them and to get rid of them or change or figure out what is really hidden behind that fear, that anxiety, or would there not be some deeper fear hidden behind that? So right here, how distant is that thing, the thing you are worrying about in your future? How distant specifically is that from the current day you are watching this video into right now? Is it 6 months from now on a general time frame? Is it 1 year from now? Is it just tomorrow? Is it 2 weeks from now? How far is it? The main thing you are worrying about, how far is it? And then you can use submodalities. If you don't know what it is, you can watch other videos of me or other people, or just Google it. Submodalities, basically you are going to make a picture, an image of the thing you are worrying about from your future, the thing you are really scared about and can't even look at it because it is so scary. This thing, you make just one big picture of it, or one movie, the first thing that pops into your mind when you think about it, and you are going to, on another side, thinking about something else, thinking about something that is really easy to achieve, to handle, like cooking your meal today, if you can do that. Otherwise, cleaning your room, or walking your kids to the school, anything you are really used to do that is really super easy to do. You are going to notice the submodalities. For example, the location of the picture in your mind's eye when you close your eyes. Where is the picture of the thing you can do very easily? And you are going to stick the picture, the scary, anxious picture of your future, into the location of that thing you can do very easily. That thing you handle, you master. It may require some meditative state to get down, in trance. And you are going to shift all the modalities, the location of the picture, the lighting, is it a still picture or a movie, is it black and white or in colors, all those things. You are just going to stick the picture of the really worrying thing from your future into the location in space and some modalities of the thing, something you are really great at doing, something you can really do eyes closed super easily, don't even need to think about it. You are going to stick that picture inside and notice what does it shift. Maybe you will have access to other thoughts, other ideas about this. Maybe you will uncover some deeper issue by doing this, or maybe you will just get confused and not really understanding, and then you will shift somehow clearly back to a normal state where you're like, no, actually everything is fine, like I don't even need to worry about that. Technique number 2 is coming from what is called the Scrooge pattern, that has been popularized by Tony Robbins at some point during his evolution, where you just make the person envision some extremely bad and painful thing that may happen in their future if they don't take action on the right things. The way to use it here is not exactly this one, but it is just to elaborate the idea of noticing the worst case scenario, because 99% of the time when we are envisioning some terrible thing that may happen, it is not even gonna happen. Or it is, if you look back on the last 10 years, all the times you have thought about some terrible thing that might happen, actually I will bet that probably 90% of them, at least, at the very least, did not happen, or happened but were not as bad as you envisioned them, or maybe they happened but you found solutions in the end, like it was not the end of the world in most cases. So you are going to think about the worst case scenario, the worst thing that can happen in your future, the thing you are worrying about or anxious about, the worst case possible. Really the worst of the worst, like you would be dead, really the worst case scenario. Now you are going to elaborate on a piece of paper, you take that and you write down on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is it to really happen? 10 being deadly, absolutely sure that it's going to happen at this specific moment, and 1 being impossible. From 1 to 10, how likely do you think this terrible, horrible thing is really likely to happen? Because once we put that down on numbers, first of all, it eases up the anxiety, because you get back deep emotional, confusing stuff into concrete logical steps and concrete logical information. Transferring raw emotional material into concrete information always helps to better clarify, okay, the solution is this, I just need to focus on that, it's gonna be okay. It really helps with that. When it's just raw emotional and anxious states like this, it's very confusing, and you don't even know what to do with that, or you're not even aware of what's really happening. When you put it down on the paper, it really makes the whole thing easier to clarify your thoughts and to understand, okay, the situation is this, I'm there, my problem is this, or this person, or that situation. Now what I need to do is X or Y. It makes the whole thing easier. As long as it just stays in your head and at night you're worrying about and this and scrolling through your phone, it's just too raw and too confusing and too immaterial to really take clever and good decisions about it. Now, the next thing of this pattern, of this technique, is to ask what is the best case scenario. You have elaborated the worst case scenario. Now, what is the best case scenario? One funny exercise we have with that, for example, is when guys are afraid to go talk to the woman they like, we just make them walk into the street and noticing when they see somebody they find attractive, noticing what thoughts come up in their mind. Most likely those are thoughts extremely worrying, anxious, and they see themselves being rejected. And the next exercise is to make them go into the street and envision the most incredible scenario ever. So you just see her, she jumps into your arms, tell you I love you, all those things, and it is not obviously not going to happen like that, but it is just that you are rewiring your brain to start envisioning positive expectations instead of always staying worrying non-stop out of bad habits that have accumulated in your life. You just rewire your brain to notice what can go good, what can be good, and then taking the actions that are more likely to lead there. So with your problem at hand right now, the main thing you are worrying about, what is on the opposite of the best case scenario ever that could happen? You envision that, you notice that, you clear it out, you write it out, and you write down same thing on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is this to happen? And if the grade of that, if on the worst case scenario you wrote 3 out of 10 likely to happen, and the best case scenario is 6 or 7 out of 10, okay, done. You don't even need to watch the end of this video, it's done. And if it is if the best case scenario is still kind of, yeah, it's good, but it's like very unlikely to, then you can just find what could be a good middle ground. What could be a good middle ground that is extremely likely to happen? If the worst case scenario for you is 2 or 3 out of 10 likely to happen, and the best case scenario is 3 or 4 out of 10 likely to happen, okay, then middle ground between those two. What is an 8 or 9 out of 10 likely to happen scenario related with your actual situation, the thing you are really stressed and worried about? What is an 8 or 9 out of 10 likely scenario now that you have cleared out the worst and the best? What is the middle ground that is the most likely to happen? It will really give a lot more clarity about the thing you need to do, and to your brain about all the emotional baggage that may be lying down and that you don't even need anymore. Technique number 3, you are going to turn your fear, your anxiety into a symbol. Whenever we have raw emotional material, it is sometimes really tough to act upon it because we have all the defense mechanisms preventing us from really seeing what is hidden down there, which is why people go to a therapist or a coach, because they have trouble articulating by themselves what's happening. They're like, I'm stressed out, I'm in fear, I'm angry, I'm upset, but I don't really know why or how, or it just comes into my head at night and I don't know why. Yeah, because that's how the human mind works. It is just hiding a lot of the painful stuff because it is repressed, because you need to keep being productive, keep being active, but it is still lying there. So one thing we can do to act upon it by yourself, if you don't have the luxury of having a private therapist with you all the time, is to turn that into a symbol. When you think about that fear, the thing you are really anxious about, what if you could turn it instantly into a symbol? For example, if I ask you, what color would you give to your anxiety? Would it be red? Would it be green? Would it be purple? Would it be blue? Would it be white, black? What color would you give to the fear, the anxiety that is really lying down there? And what shape could you give to it? Would it be a sphere, a triangle, a circle, any kind of oval shape? What kind of shape would you give to that emotion? And you are going to have a symbol now, a shape and a color. It forms a symbol, and by altering this symbol, you can actually erase the fear, understand it better, make it less destructive in your life. Maybe one of the most classical ways I found is just to, once you have a clear image of that symbol in front of you in your mind's eye, you just ask it, what is the thing you are trying to improve or achieve by existing, by being there? You just ask that in your head when you are down, maybe in a bit of a relaxed trance state. You just visualize this symbol and you ask it, what is your intention? What are you trying to do? Not even in a confrontational way, just trying to understand. Why are you here? What are you trying to do? And you will have a discussion with yourself in the back of your head, and you will notice that this thing, as usual, is there for a good reason, but with detrimental negative side effects, like any positive behavior, anything that people get mad about, their anger and their feeling of being upset is always there for a good reason. However, it has destructive negative side effects, and those are the ones we want to change. This was even the basis of the 6-step reframing they developed in 1975, around there, Bandler and Grinder, and it is the basis of any kind of reframing. You just ask what is the positive intention behind this anxiety, this fear, and then you just find, articulate, visualize, elaborate what kind of steps or actions could I take or could be happening here to maintain that positive intention while changing the negative side effect into something positive and productive into my life. Technique number 4, staying in that idea of creating a symbol, symbology to better act upon your unconscious mind and your unconscious resources. You can create a positive symbol in turn, which means that you are going to take on the opposite some extremely positive, powerful feeling, emotion, any kind of positive memory you have, basically. It doesn't need to be anything extremely specific to the actual source of anxiety you have in your life right now, just any kind of very positive feeling, memory, intuition, just something very positive you have lived in your life. And same process as on technique number 3, you are going to create a symbol in the back of your head. Just notice, visualize what kind of color and shape you could give to that emotion. If it was a symbol, what color would that be? Would it be pink? Would it be green? Would it be light blue? what color would that be? And then you can give it a shape, a triangle, a sphere, an oval, whatever it is. And now you have a symbol in your head. The idea with this is to turn into some kind of meditative process. You are going to visualize this symbol somewhere around your solar plexus. You are going to visualize it here and to imagine that every time you're breathing in, this symbol is growing inside yourself, and every time you breathe in, it is just growing, and you can make that into a 20-minute session or just 45 or 60 seconds. The end point is that you have made it grow so much that it is encircling yourself, it is shaping yourself overall, your whole body, and it is like a protection. There was a meditative process that I found in the book Mastering Your Hidden Self, talking about some shamans in the Hawaii Islands, stuff like that, and this was a process outlined in the book where you just envision a circle, a ball of light inside yourself, and every time you inhale, it just grows and grows and grows up to the point where it is creating a whole shield of light all around you, protecting you from all the negative expectations or the negative influences around you all day long. This process right here is very similar, and I had done that back in 2016 for like 2 months every morning, or close to every morning, where I was developing that visualization of some circle of light around me, and I wanted to grow my sense of self-confidence back then. It definitely helped. I was also hearing much less negative voices in my head by doing that. So here the idea is to have a symbol of something that is extremely positive for you, some extremely positive expectation, emotion, memory that you have at your disposal in your head, and you have it down here, and you grow it, you immerse into it, and you make it grow stronger and more and deeper and more powerful as you breathe in. Also, it is metaphorically helping your body to have a more sensitive diaphragm, to have a more malleable diaphragm, because when you envision something in your solar plexus growing, you are actually indirectly, intuitively helping your own diaphragm to open correctly. And the more mastery you have over your diaphragm, as martial artists know about, the more mastery you have over your own emotions. So obviously it is always helpful to have a calmer diaphragm and to be able to breathe much more silently, deeply and thoroughly. And once it has grown up to encircling your whole body, you are going to notice, how do I feel right now? And you can go out into the world and into your daily activities with that sensation around you. Many times you are going to just trigger very positive things happening just because of the way you behave, the way you talk to people. It is going to change many things, even unconsciously, without you thinking intensely about, I want this to happen. Even without that, you're going to trigger things from people around you just because you are in the right state, nothing else. And the last one is a funny technique I found with ChatGPT. Now that I am really addicted to this new tool, this AI, you can just take the main concept, the main word, the main description of the thing you are worried about, but make it into a state, an emotional state. If it had to be described as a state of consciousness, an emotional state, how would you describe the negative thing you are experiencing right now, the thing you are really worried about, the thing you are experiencing that is really being negative? And you are going to write down on ChatGPT, on the AI, find me, for example, 20 exact opposite words to this negative terminology. For example, anxiety, find me 20 different words that are the exact opposite of anxiety. And then the next step of this process, I used to do that by myself on my own, but now with this AI, we have it even without making any effort. You can just write down, find me 10 suggestions by infusing as many of those words as possible, and suggestions for well-being. And once you have all of them, you can just print them onto your wall, maybe recite them every morning or every evening before going to bed. Just you will have this at your disposal, and you can use them by meditating. It is just to rewire your brain to fire off happy states instead of always having the most negative, detrimental states ever. Happiness is a state of mind, it is a state of being, it comes from inside yourself. It can be easier with more material stuff around around you, but there is really a limit to that, because down the road it is not going to help. All the material success around you is not going to help if it is not fixed inside. And feeling happy with what you have is a state of mind and is a habit to develop all the time. And I will conclude with this quote from Richard Bandler in the book Thinking on Purpose, a 15-day plan. Happiness is not something that happens to you, it's an activity that you have to get good at it. You have to practice smiling, you have to practice relaxing, you have to look to master all of those things. That's why people who meditate are so much better at relaxing. They practice for at least 20 minutes a day. If you don't practice relaxing, you're not good at it. Most people practice stressing. If you're going to practice stressing every day, if you actually can predict that every day you're going to stress about the same things, especially at roughly the same time, is that smart or is that stupid?